Turns out I need another motorbike. But you've got loads of motorbikes already. I know, but it turns out I still need another one. What, a race bike? No. Maybe a dirt bike? No. So, a road bike? Yes. But you've already got road bikes, you've got sports bikes and a flat bar bike. So, what other bike could you possibly need? Well, I don't have a winter bike. But you do have a van with a roof and a heater and a radio. Yes, but it's not a bike. You're right, they're not a bike. But why do you want to get cold and wet and dirty riding around all winter? Apart from those things, it'll be fun. And I won't get stuck in traffic. So you're going to save 5 minutes by spending 5 minutes putting all your riding kit on so you don't get cold and wet? Well, yes, but you're missing the point. Which is, it'll be fun. And driving the van is boring. On a bike, I'm exploring. I'm pushing the boundaries. I'm getting out of my comfort zone. I'm standing out from the crowd. I'm exploring the world. I'm at one with the elements. And all of that on your ride to work. Well, yeah, for take the long route. And you haven't considered the maths. What, the cost of buying a bike, cost of insuring the bike, cost of taxing the bike, and the cost of maintaining another vehicle. No, not those maths. The important maths. You know, x equals n plus 1, where x is the perfect number of motorbikes and n is the number I already have. So I think you'll see, using maths, I've proven I need another motorbike. Well, you can't argue with maths. You best get yourself another motorbike. So when looking for a winter hack, there are of course some important criteria that must be abided by. It's going to have to survive the rigours of winter, so it's going to need good build quality. So that means Japanese or German. It's not about performance, so a small engine that's fuel efficient will be perfect. Lightweight, so that if it slips and slides, it's easy to control, and if you are unfortunate enough to drop it, it's going to be easy to pick up. But most importantly, it doesn't want to cost a lot of money because it's only going to be a winter hack. So I went on eBay and I found something perfect that fits absolutely none of the criteria we've just talked about. And here it is. It is a 2016 Triumph Tiger Explorer 1200 with spoked wheels. It's big. It's quite heavy. It's made in England, which is not necessarily a byword for quality. It's been left outside a lot in its life, so it's quite furry in places. But it was cheap. So this bike was on eBay. Laguna Motorcycles had partexed it in and were selling it out on auction. I was the second person to bid on it, and I've paid less than £2,500 for this, which seems like a bargain. But there are a few points to note. It has got a bit of corrosion in places, and by in places I mean the wheels, the swinging arm, the engine, quite a lot of the stuff down low isn't in great condition. There are some marks on it here and there where either something's been dropped on it or it's been dropped at some point. It does have service history up to about 2020. It has MOT history to back up the 23,500 miles. The back tyre is nearly bald. It is very practical, so it does have factory fitted heated grips. The left hand one is very worn and there is a hole in it and you can see the heating element, and it's gone weirdly sticky, so that's not great. But it is a complete working motorbike, and I think it was a bargain, and so do pretty much everybody else I've spoken to. So what I think I can do is run this all winter, do a couple of little jobs on it, and come spring probably get all of my money back, if I'm lucky. So I've been riding around on it a bit already and I've found some useful features. The heated grips work really nicely. If you want to take your hand off the left one, it sort of sticks to it and it's a bit unpleasant. So if you want to wave to the person who just filtered past, you can't. The screen is the perfect height that I actually still get buffeting on my helmet, but absolutely no airflow through the vents. So my visor steams up all the time. And if I open it a little bit, the water running off the screen like whips around and inside my visor, which is refreshing. It does have cruise control, which is relevant for absolutely none of my commute to work. The throttle round town is surprisingly snatchy. But there are some good bits. It has a shaft drive for low maintenance, the heated grips actually work, the cruise control does work if you actually get anywhere that needs it, and it's pretty comfortable. So I'm saying that is still going to be a decent winter hack. But today I do have a couple of modifications to make to improve it further. So the first maintenance job is to change this grip, because it has worn through to the heating elements, but it's also gone really weirdly sticky. It does actually work, but I'm not sure it's going to work for very long. And so I went to see Andy at Webbs of Lincoln, my friendly local Triumph dealer, and I've bought a genuine left-hand handlebar grip. The right-hand one is luckily in reasonable condition because it's discontinued. And so it's a case of unbolting the grip up here, undoing the hand guard so I can take that out of the way, and then hopefully that will just slide off and expose the electrical connector, and I can swap it over, put the new one on. This has become a bit more involved than I first thought. There are screws top and bottom of the grip, but that's the easy bit. The awkward bit is they run the cabling for the grip through the middle of the handlebar tube, and so it sticks out under here, which isn't too bad, except it sits out at such an angle because the switchgear is in the way that you have to take the switchgear off, and to do that you need to loosen the mirror support so you can get everything around in the right place and basically get a bit of access to wiggle the wire out. And then we have the wire itself. I was rather hoping they'd put the electrical connector somewhere accessible, but no! Where would be the fun in that? So the wire runs around the headstock and tucks underneath behind this plastic trim piece. Now you can't take the plastic trim piece out with the top yoke in, and I don't want to take the top yoke out, so what I've done is loosened it. So I've taken the fasteners out of it so I can just basically move it around. To do that you need to take like the inner cheek pieces out of both sides of the fuel tank and the bit onto the front of the fuel tank, so that's another 8 fasteners. And then you can work up here and get to the electrical connector there for the heated grip. Now I understand you want to keep it out of the way of the weather a bit, so it is quite well tucked away, but it's not all over when you've unplugged it, because the end of the wire has a big block plastic connector on it. That doesn't fit through the hole in the handlebar. So the new heated grip comes with just the terminals, which you then have to plug into the plastic connector. It doesn't come with a new plastic connector though, so what I've got to do now is very carefully unpick the wires out of this terminal, basically release some little latches up in the plastic, which are not designed to be taken apart and reused, so that I can feed the new cable through the handlebar and plug it back into this block. It would have been considerably better if they'd have just given me a new plastic block, but for the 50 quid for a heated grip, apparently they can't stretch you a few pence for a plastic block. Having unpicked the end off the original heated grip, I've also tied a bit of lock wire to it, so that when I pull that cable through the handlebar, I've got the lock wire to use as a guide to pull the new cable in. Otherwise, I've got to fish it down there and just hope it comes out the hole. And let's face it, that's not going to happen, so we do need a guide wire. It's taken several attempts to pull my new wire through the handlebar. It is a faff and the hole in the handlebar is not big, and so you've got absolutely no chance without the guide wire. But now that's through, all I need to do is put the electrical connector on the end, and they are literally push-in clip connectors, and then go underneath the bike, actually get it to fit under there, smear a bit of grease around it so it's a bit more waterproof, and then only the few minutes job of putting all of this nonsense back together. I did test the grip before I fitted all the stupid little plastic bits, but that works, everything's put back together, that is first job done. Only an hour and a half to change a handlebar grip. So onwards to the next job, which involves being at the other end of the bike. So one of the restrictions on many motorbikes is carrying stuff. And on a day-to-day basis, for me, that's gym kit, lunch, laptop, that sort of thing. And on this, we have a rack and we have sort of rails to attach luggage to, but didn't come with any luggage. Panniers, side panels, bags, saddle bags, whatever you want to call them, they would be more practical from a dynamic point of view because the weight is carried lower and they don't add that much to the width of the bike. I am planning on doing quite a lot of filtering and so putting extra width on the bike isn't ideal, but they wouldn't be too bad. But the problem with that is they're quite expensive to find the proper Triumph ones that actually fit the bike well. So the solution is a top box, which dynamically is a terrible idea, because you're putting a load of weight quite high up at the polar motorbike where it's going to have the most influence to the riding dynamic. They're also terrible for aerodynamics, because you have this big void behind the rider, and then as the air's funneling in to fill it in, it then hits another big block, and that leaves another big void behind it, and it's really quite a bad way of doing anything. But the good news with the top box is you can buy a Chinese one that's fairly universal and fits relatively easy for not much money. So that's what I've done. And this is my universal Chinese top box. And I think it actually looks okay. It certainly has that adventuring kind of look that we're going for with the Triumph. So I need to attach the fitting kit that comes with it, slide this on, and hopefully it won't take as long as doing the heated grip. Fitting the universal bracket was pretty straightforward. I did think I would use the nice big holes at the side into the edges of the aluminium rack, but they don't give you any washers big enough for that. I could have just walked upstairs and got some, but why won't I just use the fitting kit they've given me? It's free. And so, 4 bolts. It would be nice if they had washers, but I haven't fitted any. And then there's basic plates underneath that clamp into the original Triumph rack, and that's pretty solid. So the next thing I need to do is just slot the top box on. And fitted. Really actually quite simple. When it's locked, it'll be slightly secure, although I'm not going to say that these locks are going to be particularly brilliant quality. But I now have carrying capacity for my lunch, and that is important. With my very sensible heated grip fitted and my even more sensible top box fitted, there's just one last thing to do today, and it's going to be an oil change. The eBay listing for the bike said there was no history with it, and I bought it from Laguna Motorcycles. And when I got my mate to look on the Triumph system, it had actually been serviced at Laguna Motorcycles almost all its life. So having found its service history, I still wanted to check it over, so I took the brake calipers off, made sure all the pistons moved, made sure all the bolts were seizing up, checked all the fluid levels, and all the fluids in it look good and clean. So it has actually been properly maintained. At 20,000 miles it should have had a valve clearance service. I have no idea whether it's had one or not, but there's no paperwork to back it up, so I'm assuming probably not. So at some point I might do it, but it's not particularly high on my priority list. But oil goes off over time, and so I'm just going to do it as a bit of a safety measure. So obviously we're putting the best oil in, which is Motul. This bike wants fully synthetic, so we're putting 7100 in. That's the sort of the touring high mileage road oil, not the fully racy 300V. And the advantage of that is it's also slightly cheaper. So we're going to oil and filter it, and then I can ride it home. Oil and filter changes don't get any easier than on this Triumph. So the sump plug is just under this side, the oil filter's the other side, so I just literally put a bowl underneath it, took the sump plug out, took the oil filter off, let them drain for a couple of minutes while I went to have a lovely biscuit. Today I had a chocolate hobnob, and then I came back, put the sump plug back in, primed up a new oil filter, put that on the other side, poured some oil into it, hit the start button, ran it for 30 seconds or so, turned it off, let it settle, top the oil up in the sight glass, job done. Easy. I'm putting out there the only way they could have actually made that any easier is if a man came round and did it for me, but answering the door would nearly take me as long as putting an oil and filter in this bike. So now that I've done my few little tasks, the big Triumph is ready for its winter of work. If I do any other maintenance or improvements to the bike, I'll pop them on the channel, or I'll pop them on the Obsession Engineering Instagram. So thank you for watching, and join me again next time for some more motorbike fun.